Actually, we had an unusual teacher for the first part of that year, Miss Dietz. Well, unusual in that it looked like she didn't belong. Not in Sandpoint. She was rich and beautiful. She smelled like perfume and money. But we couldn't figure out why she wanted to teach third grade in our part of the country. And later, my mom was to say that Miss Dietz was just too delicate to be teaching third grade in our part of the country. But there she was, and on opening day of class. Long auburn hair was piled up like this and held together with gold pins. She had a gold chain that held her necklace. And as we got to know her, she wore a different dress each day. We weren't used to that at all. And there she was. Beautiful. And everything went along swimmingly, even though we couldn't figure out what was going on until she came up with the idea. Class, I've been thinking, and I wanted to get a way for us to share, to get to know each other. So I've decided that every Friday will be show and tell. Yes, it will. What I want you to do is bring in your prized possessions or interesting possessions and share it with the rest of the class. Won't that be fun? All the rich kids, the city kids, they jumped up and down. They thought this was the greatest idea. They had all this stuff they wanted to share with everybody else but us. The poor kids, the country kids, we didn't have anything to share. We didn't know what she was talking about. Crazy Eddie Muldoon, my best friend, was particularly disturbed. Pat, I don't have anything, to share or tell about. What's she talking about? You got anything? Well, I suppose I could take in the post hole digger, Eddie. Don't you have a toy, something you play with? Yeah, dirt. I could bring in a bag of dirt. What about you, Eddie? What do you got? Well, I've been thinking maybe, my pa said he's going to butcher a hog when the weather gets a little bit colder. So I thought I could bring in some of the parts that we never use. Like maybe the lungs. I can talk a long time about lungs. I'm sure you can, Eddie, but that might be a little messy, don't you think? And lungs, pig lungs especially, aren't very interesting. They're a lot more interesting than dirt. As it turns out, we could wait a little while because Miss Dietz decided to start with all the rich kids since they all hopped up to volunteer. And the first person to come up was Lester Gilbert. And he brought in his stamp collection. He made a presentation that was so long that I almost fell off my chair just to amuse myself. But Miss Dietz said it was an interesting presentation, very educational. And then Delbert St. Clair came the next week with his coin collection. I could have been pronounced dead 4 times during it. But Miss Dietz said, no, it was a fine presentation, and didn't we all learn a lot? Then Michael McGee came in with his train set. It was electric. I was about to electrocute him. But she said this was wonderful. Didn't we all see how this was working? And finally, each week, a new thing, a new rich kid, until finally there were no more rich kids. Miss Dietz randomly selected Rudy Griddle to begin from the poor side. Rudy didn't have anything. Everybody knew that. But Rudy surprised us because the next Friday he came in and he had a cigar box and it was wrapped up in baling haywire. And it was sealed with duct tape. And he took it up to Miss Dietz's desk, and he stood behind the desk. Sweat was rising off of him. He stuttered very badly, but he managed to empty the contents of the cigar box on Miss Deed's desk. Yeah. It's collection of cigarette butts. I collect them on the road. Ain't none of them less than an inch. Each one is different. Go ahead, smell them. Each one, different smell. I don't smoke them. No. I just collect them for educational purposes. There was a shocked and stunned silence in that classroom. And then all of a sudden, Eddie yelled out, "Yay, Rudy!" And all of us knew Rudy Griddle had shown us the way. The next week, Farley Carp came in. I'm sorry, I'm still a little stopped up. It's the first time I've ever tanned a hide, and I didn't know skunks would be this difficult. I figure the next one will be a lot easier, because this one was educational. I figure I can cut the smell by about 50%, maybe more. I'll just leave it right here for you, Miss D. Then Rhett Sweeney, Popper's son, he came in, big board, and on it was his collection of wildlife droppings. I brought this in. He talked just like his father. It was amazing. I got all the wildlife droppings mounted here on this board. I'm sorry about the stains on the board, but this used to be my pa's maggot ranch. I varnished everything over, and you see I put the names down there, underneath each sample there. I know that one in the corner there, it doesn't have a name on it. It looks human, that's for sure. But I don't think it is, because I got it from way up in the mountains where nobody goes, way up there. Varnished the whole board and everything there. I'll just leave this here for you, Miss Dietz. Manny Fogg was the poorest of the poor. He didn't have anything. That family barely ate. But luckily, the day before show and tell, he managed to cut his foot pretty bad with a double-bitted axe. So he limped in, and put his foot right up on Miss D's desk. Okay, everybody, come on over here for show and tell. Let me get this dressing off here. That's education. See that? That's where Ma sewed it up with gut fishing leader. Yeah, boy, when that needle went in, did it hurt? You could see how it's still gushing there around. I don't really know if this is educational or anything, For those of us who cut wood with a double-bitted axe, it was very educational. Show and tell was beginning to tell on Miss Dietz. Every Friday, her face took on a wan and haunted look. One time, I even saw her crying in the cloakroom. That was the day Laura Ann Strudel brought in her chicken, the one that the other chickens had pecked all the feathers off. Laura Ann put that chicken on Miss Dee's desk, and then she used her pointer to point out the various methods of attack that had been utilized. The chicken, probably happy to be outside of the barnyard at that particular moment, and maybe also a little excited by being the center of attention in a third grade classroom, committed a small indiscretion on Miss Deet's desk. Miss Deet's face turned as red as dewberry wine. Rest of us just kept on laughing for about 10 minutes. That was the first time humor had been used in the presentations at Show and Tell. The next week was my turn, and I came in with my collection of dried roadkill. I have it right here. I always carry it with me to this day. It's a toad. You might very well ask what kind of toad that was. Slow toad. Tortoise and a hare. I guess neither of them won that time. Toad caused everybody in that class to lose it. I guess it doesn't take much to make third graders lose it. And we proceeded. Finally, there was just two people left. Margaret Hamilton, and Crazy Eddie Muldoon. Margaret, I don't know. We didn't know exactly what she was going to bring, but Eddie was pretty happy. Pa's going to butcher a hog later on, and I thought I could bring in, like we were talking about the spare parts and everything if they haven't putrefied by then. You think that's a good idea? Sure, Eddie, that's going to be good, It looks like you're going to be the last one, so you better make it good. What Margaret Hamilton brought in was amazing, and it changed Eddie's plans. She brought in a big box. She put that box on top of Miss Deet's desk. Miss Deetz stepped back to the far corner. Her hands were fluttering around her lips like that. And then Margaret turned over that box, and out comes a cat with 4 baby kittens. Oh. Miss Deetz ran up to the kittens and picked them up and said this was the best show and tell ever, and wasn't everybody delighted, and on and on. Walking home from school that day, Eddie was completely dejected. Now I gotta find something live and cute for the last show and tell. All right, Eddie, all right. Now what, why don't you get your pa's new calf? That calf is cute. That calf weighs 175 pounds. Wouldn't even make it through the door. No, I got to get something small and cute. And I don't. Well, what about Herbie? Herbie's cute. I know that for a fact. Yeah, but Herbie don't have no babies. Well, why don't we think of a substitute for Herbie? Say, I've got an idea. The next day was the best show and tell in the history of show and tell. Eddie Muldoon came in with a lard pail attached to his belt. Holes were poked in the top of it. With the deft agility of a true magician, he flicked the top off of that. He walked up to Miss Deetz's desk, took that lard pail, put it dead center, reached inside. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Henrietta Muldoon, my pet garter snake. But that's not all. Miss Dietz inhaled so deeply that it caused papers on the other side of the room to shake. Her eyes opened in expectation and, quite frankly, horror. Eddie reached in to the pail once again. And these are her babies! And he held up the biggest, thickest, longest night crawlers you have seen. Aren't they cute? The night crawlers made their way down Eddie's arms, onto Miss Deed's desk, and even into her purse, which had been laying open on her desk before they scattered all over the floor. I thought that what I heard at first was a fire siren. The way the pitch quivered, the way the volume mounted, as if it was coming closer and closer. And then all of a sudden that sound vibrated the glass in all of the windows in the room, and it strained every hair of every follicle of every third grader. And then it was gone. After Miss Dietz's cries abated, Mr. Piddle, our principal, came in, and he removed the catatonic Miss Dietz from the sides of the blackboard where she had clutched. And then gently, very gently, he took her out into the hallway. That was the last we ever saw of her. It was later that night that Mom reminded me, I told you. She was just too delicate to be teaching third grade in our part of the country.